Hey everybody, welcome back to Shoney Small Engines. Jed here. Have this Poulan Pro PR5020. Not too old, but the customer complaints it's just really hard to start or just doesn't start at all. There is fuel in it. The primer does fill. You can hear it. It's filled up there. The fuel smells fresh. So I'm going to show you real quick. Can't get it to start, and then we'll go ahead and try to diagnose this. Put the choke on. So you saw me prime it there. Right, so it does start, but won't stay on. All right, so it starts and does rev a little bit. Won't stay running. Before this, I did try fiddling with the highs and lows when it would do that, but I couldn't get it to stay running. So I am going to pull this apart. I want to check the carburetor, check the fuel line. The fuel filter may be clogged or something, but we'll see what's going on inside. So the first thing we got to do is get this cover off, and then this cover as well. And we have this air box, which has a fair amount of fine dust in there, which tells me probably getting a little bit of a dull chain. Actually, not too bad, but does have some chunks taken out of it, so that's not going to help. Another thing I noticed here right off the bat, there's a nut missing. I don't know if the person had this taken apart or if that just vibrated loose, so we're going to have to address that. Let's get this cover off so we can get to the carburetor. So we're going to come in, and there's three 5/32 Allen bolts, front, middle, and back here. And that should lift off. Sometimes you got to move the brake out of the way. I'll come out of the way. All right, now we can access our carburetor a little bit better. We're going to take this 8mm nut off. Should be another one, so we'll have to replace that. Then we have a T20 Torx bit right here we got to get off. Get that bolt out. Try to keep your things organized. Now that should lift out of there and out of the way. We'll just kind of fold that back out of the way for now. Okay. All right, now we got to pull up on this little guy. We'll get that throttle linkage out of the way. Set that aside. I'm going to pull the carb out, and I'm actually going to pull this choke off so I don't break this thing. So now that the carb's off, we're going to disconnect these fuel lines. One there, that didn't feel like a very new fuel line. Alright, so we got our carb out of the way. Just the gasket back there, don't lose that. You can actually notice, you can look down inside here, that this fuel line is it's leaking. You can see it's wet down there. The fuel line is actually kind of disintegrating a little bit. So obviously going to have to take care of that. So we're going to do fuel lines regardless. We'll do the ones to and from the primer bulb, and the one that goes in coming from the tank. And this one should have a fuel filter on it too. So we're going to set this aside for now and take a look at the carburetor. So first we'll get the diaphragm off. Which doesn't feel too bad. Probably replace that since we're in here, but it's not. I wouldn't call it the cause of it not running. So we'll get that out of the way for now. Flip to the other side, where the pump is. It doesn't look terrible either. The fuel screen looks good. There's just a little bit of gunk in here. These guys are getting a little warped, so I'm going to definitely replace that. So replace that one. Let's get this cleaned up a little bit. A little bit of brake cleaner just to clean the outside. All right, in general, I do not think this carb is the problem. But again, since we're in here for a few bucks, and if you have a problem where these gaskets look even worse, or this diaphragm looks worse than this, I'll show you where to get these gasket parts and then replace them for yourself. Most likely the culprit, if it starts but doesn't run very well, it's usually going to be something like these guys. Or like this fuel screen will be clear. But I just checked, I pushed some air through, and the needle is opening and allowing air through, so it should allow fuel through. So I don't think it's the carburetor here. I am going to rebuild it anyway, but I do think we're going to have to go ahead and replace all those fuel lines, and that's going to be our problem. All right, I just looked. I don't have this carb kit in stock. I usually do, so I'll have to order that up. We'll set that aside, but we'll go ahead and replace these fuel lines while we're here. I'm going to drain the fuel tank first. Just going to dump this out, so it makes it a lot easier to do these guys. It's good to see that there's mixed oil and gas in here, and not just straight gas, because that could be another issue. If you're having problems getting this thing to idle, pull the exhaust off and check your piston to make sure that that's not scratched up. All right, now that the fuel's out of there, let's go ahead and get these fuel lines taken care of. First thing I'm going to do is get this bulb. So I'm pinching the two tabs behind this primer bulb, and that should pop out this way. There it comes. Okay. All right, the longer one goes back to the tank, the shorter one comes from the carburetor, and these kind of came off pretty easy. Kind of crappy fuel line. I'm going to replace that with some Tygon. I'll show you that when I get it out. Okay, so remember, short ones from the carb, long ones to the tank as a return. So fuel comes out of this tube, through the carb, through this tube, back out of this tube, and back to the gas tank. So it makes a loop. All right, you can kind of see when I squeeze this, a little bit of fuel still comes out of this. So it's going to pull in this side, push out that side. All right, I'm going to pull that one through. Yeah, it's starting to pinch there. So let's replace all these. Again, this is the return line. This is from the carburetor. And then we have one more here with the fuel filter on it. And this is the one that's in the worst shape. Kind of see the fuel line there. Probably the reason this thing isn't running very well. Yep, you can see this fuel line's coming apart in here. Bad condition. Inner liner piece that just pulled apart. It's disintegrated. Now I want to do a thorough clean in here, because if any of that debris got in there, I don't want that to clog up the carburetor. Okay, let me get some fuel line that we're going to replace this with, and then show you the process of putting these all back in. As an upgrade over like the junky stuff you can find, this is called Tygon, and this particular size is 3/32 inside diameter and 3/16 outside diameter. So I'll show you where to get that. A lot of times, I'm using this for some of the other stuff, this bigger, which is 1/8 inside, 1/4 outside. But for this one, as you can see, this is a little bit thinner. If you try to go with a bigger one, you're never going to get it through the holes down there. It's going to be really hard. So I already have a piece cut here for my return line. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this a little bit on an angle to make it a little easier to feed through there. And I'm also going to add a little bit of lube onto it. Now we got to feed it down through this hole right here. And once we get it started and in far enough, we'll be able to reach in from the inside and grab it with the needle nose. I don't know if you can see it right there. That's the tip of it. I'm going to try to reach in. I'll see if I can get this on camera. Once I grab it, I'm just going to do a prying motion. And now we have it in the return line. Okay. I'm just going to leave that long for now. Now we're going to need this little piece for the carburetor to primer bulb. I'm just going to leave that to the side for now. And then we need a long one to replace this one. But I don't know exactly how long this is. I don't know how much of that deteriorated or broke apart. So I'm going to leave it long, and then I'll cut the excess off. But again, I got to do the same thing. I'm going to cut this on an angle. I'm going to feed it down through this other hole on the top here, right there. Underneath and grab. I got to pull this one out because I have to cut the end off. and we're going to put a new fuel filter on that. Just have a universal fuel filter here. They work fine. Get that on tight enough. Now that's going to sit right on the bottom, just like that. Since this handle's on the top here like this, and most people, if they're going to be cutting sideways, are going to go like this, I want that fuel filter to be as far down as I can on the back side, but also against the bottom. So now all I got to do is rebuild the carburetor and replace the fuel lines, and then maybe do a little carb adjustment. So I'm going to, on the return line, snip this flat. I'm going to put this guy on just to keep it from pulling back up through on accident, so we don't have a line get pulled away. All right, at this point, I can't go any further until I get these gasket parts in. Again, I'll put a link to the description. This is I think it's an RB77 or a 66, but I think they're both the same. So once those parts come in, I'll show you how to rebuild this. We'll put it back together, put the fuel lines on. And those parts come in, I can hook up the primer bulb. So I'm going to put the primer lines on. Again, that probably doesn't need to be that long. I can cut that a little shorter. That's the return to the tank. This side goes to the carburetor. And then these guys are on an angle, flat-wise, horizontal. And that just gets pressed in. Here we go. All right, it's going to look like that for now until we know the distances to put the carburetor on. All right, those parts should be in 2 days. Again, I'll put a link in the description, and I'll show you how to put that back together, and then we'll test it out, see if we can get it to start. All right, we are back. The new gasket kit came in, and you get the diaphragm gasket, the pump side, new pump. The material's a little different on these. These are a little bit more hardier, I think. Different materials mean different things, but this is kind of like an all-around. And then we have our diaphragm. You want to double check with your old diaphragm to make sure that this little pin on the pinwheel is the same size. Some of them are long, some are short. Otherwise, you'll have too much fuel going in or not enough. Also comes with new screen, all this other parts. I'll probably replace the screen. I mean, that needle looks really good. I did a pressure check, and it's holding pretty well, so I don't need to replace the needle. If you do have to, you just got to pull that screw off. This little shaft comes out with the rocker arm and the needle. A little difficult to put back in because there's a little spring underneath, so you got to kind of put the spring on, put everything in place, But with this carburetor being in really good shape, I'm not even going to bother with that. But I will pull the screen out and replace that. So it's going to use a little pick, get in here, grab a hold of the side, pry up, and there it comes. Again, not bad shape. You can actually see through it. A little bit of grime on it, but not bad. So we'll get rid of that. Here's our new screen. We're just going to set that in place. And then using the back of like a 1/4-inch bit, just going to kind of press down on that guy right in the center. There we go. Now we'll do the diaphragm. Gasket goes down first, and then the diaphragm. Line up your holes. Come in here with this plate. It goes in this little notch right here, and that'll line up like that. Now we can get those 2 screws in, keep that in place. Tighten that down right now. Doesn't have to be super tight. I kind of use like 3 or 4 fingers just to give it a good turn. Okay. Now on the other side, we have this gasket that goes down, and then we have the pump gasket. The valves, these valves kind of open and close on these inlets, so to kind of pull and seal. So that goes on. These little dowel pins kind of have to go in their place, and then you got to move the throttle out of the way sometimes. There we go. And then the screw goes in the middle. A lot of people will tell me that I'm wasting my time doing this. You know, I will save roughly $10–15 instead of buying an aftermarket carb, but I think these Zamas As long as that check valve inside is good, these things should last, you know, a very long time, as long as you're running good fuel in there and not letting it sit for a long time. Anyway, that's the rebuild. Again, there's some other parts in here that I'm not going to use, but you know, people can complain if you want, but you know, if you want to replace those, be my guest. I just found that it's not always necessary. All right, now this carb's rebuilt, we're going to put it back together. We'll have to cut some of the fuel lines here to length, but and we'll see if we can get fuel to pull through like it's supposed to, and then we'll put it all back together. All right, let's just going to attach these guys real quick. Let's see where we're at with the other one. That one's good. This one, I can probably cut off about that much. Let's get this attached. So pulling up through the tank, through the carburetor, out this side, into the bubble, and then back into the tank. So that should be right, if I did that correctly. So we'll put that on. I'm going to put some fuel in there and see if we can get fuel to cycle. Now we should get fuel coming in through here. There we go. Fuel's coming through the lines. You can see it coming through the lines. Bubbles filling up. Now we got to attach the choke lever. I'm going to put the throttle on, and that sits down inside there. There we go. Make sure that the choke works. Yep. Now we'll bring the airbox back down. We're making sure that that squeezes down into the tube and makes a good seal. We have this little screw at the bottom here. Just make sure everything moves. Okay, let me I'm going to clean out this air filter real quick. It's in good shape, but it's got some dirt in it, so we're going to empty that. We'll blow that out with air. Okay, air filter's pretty clean. Before we put that on, we got to put the cover on, but we got to put these bolts, these nuts on. So we have these 8mm nuts. Again, one was missing, so we're going to use one from a kit I have. Okay, that's in place. Now we'll put this cover on. Slides over top. Drops down like that. 3 screws. Then we're going to come in with the air filter. Pop that in place, and we are ready to go. It's already primed. Let's put this cover on. And let's see if we can get this guy to start and run and idle. I might have to adjust the carburetor, which is fine. I'll go get the tool for that right away. All right, I have my, I think it's a 21 tooth spline or something like that. I don't know. But let's see if we can get this to start, and if we have to adjust it, we'll adjust it. Choke on. Let's go down to half choke. It sounded pretty good. Just got to take that off for a second. All right. Definitely needs a chain sharpened, but otherwise runs pretty good. You guys got any questions, hit me up in the comments. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps. If it helps, even if it's leave me a thumbs up, it helps. Check out some of my other content here. You can check out my channel there, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching.